Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. Welcome to the ChatGPT podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Each episode, we dive into the latest developments in the exciting field of artificial intelligence, exploring its applications and potential impacts on our daily lives. I just released a bombshell investigative podcast piece about Inflection AI and the dangers it poses to humanity. This is right on the back of Inflection raising $1.3 billion and becoming the second most funded AI startup behind OpenAI. The episode is called Inflection AI Raises $1.5 Billion, Thinks Ecology is More Important Than Human Life. If you haven't listened to this, I urge you to listen to this critical episode. I'll leave a link in the description to the podcast and a corresponding article with the full transcripts of my conversation with Inflection's Pi chatbot. Today on the podcast, I want to talk about a really interesting story about an AI startup that has just sold for $650 million in cash to Thomson Reuters, and that is Casetext, which essentially is an AI legal tech startup. So a huge congratulations to the team over there. This is a really big moment. The deal is valued, as I said, at $650 million in cash. It's expected to close in the second half of this year. And what's interesting is Casetext was actually a Y Combinator-backed company when it started. But of course, this whole thing is, contingent on regulatory approvals and essentially, just regular closing conditions. The CEO of Thomson Reuters, Steve Hasker, he said, the acquisition of Casetext is another step in our build, partner, and buy strategy to bring generative AI solutions to our customers. We believe that Casetext will accelerate and expand our market potential of these offerings, revolutionizing the way professionals work and the work they do. I think this is really interesting because this is a trend I'm actually seeing where, you see something like a $650 million startup, quote unquote, acquisition. This thing isn't like the newest company. It was actually founded back in 2013. And I believe, it's been highlighted a number of times in a lot of major news by TechCrunch and a bunch of other ones throughout the years. So this isn't, super new of a company. It's been around for around 10 years. And I think what's really interesting here is they weren't always this, AI kind of giant or AI-based company. When they were originally founded, they were more focusing on creating a community for attorneys to share knowledge and to provide services to give users free access to legal texts or annotations by lawyers. That was kind of their original idea. But eventually, the company pivoted to kind of embrace the whole AI machine learning aspect to build automated flows and tools for legal teams. And if you think about the life cycle of that company and how they pivoted, this makes perfect sense, right? They started out creating a data set, essentially, a community to share knowledge. So they're having all of this data from lawyers and from people asking lawyers questions and getting responses, and then they're able to go and turn that data set into an AI tool. So I believe, companies that have focused on these kind of communities, these kind of data that essentially have these built-in data sets are going to do really well in this coming AI boom because you see all of a sudden a company like Casetext can ship a new product. So they have one called Co-Counsel, which essentially, taps into AI to review documents. It helps with legal research memos. It helps to prepare depositions and analyze contracts. And this is one other thing that I'm super, super interested about. Casetext was actually one of the very few original companies that were granted early access to GPT-4. And they use that as their infrastructural backend for Co-Counsel, their new product. So you have these companies that kind of had these data sets. They're able to then go and, create these AI models. And in addition to just, creating AI models, they literally are using GPT-4 as their backend, but they got early access. And I almost wonder, if they didn't get this early access and they weren't able to kind of build this infrastructure, they probably, in my opinion, wouldn't be able to sell for $650 million today. It's almost like OpenAI chose the winners and the losers in some of these spaces because perhaps they had, let's say they had an identical competitor that didn't get access and didn't get to integrate their tools into this advanced technology, there's no way that, they'd be able to compete. So this is really interesting. I think it shows kind of the role of kingmaker that OpenAI does play by allowing companies to get early access. And what's funny is in the grand scheme of things, it might not be that big of a time gap, right? Maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months between when OpenAI gives some of these people early access and when they give everyone early access. But because AI is moving so quickly, giving a company 6 months head start or 12 months head start of early access to GPT-4 literally can make a massive difference to the point where they're selling their company for $650 million. So I think this is really impressive. According to a press release from them, they have around 104 employees, and apparently they have a customer base of around 10,000 law firms and corporate legal departments. So previous to this, they've raised around $64 million from Union Square Ventures and a few others. But this is a really big move for them. And their CEO recently said, "For the last 10 years, we've harnessed the power of AI to build and elevate the practice of law and enable attorneys to serve more people's legal needs with the ultimate goal of increasing access to justice. Joining Thomson Reuters is an incredible opportunity to advance our mission in the field of generative AI solutions exponentially, not only for lawyers, but across professions, ensuring the revolutionary technology can benefit as many people as possible." I think this is going to be a really big move. I think this is interesting when we're kind of looking at the legal landscape. Of course, there's been lawsuits around, lawyers using ChatGPT and other tools. So I think that is something interesting to kind of watch out for. But it seems like those have not spooked the AI field from investing in AI technology. So that's something we're going to continue watching into the future to see how that changes. If you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that over the last 6 months, I've been working on a stealth AI startup. Of the hundreds of projects I've covered, this is the one that I believe has the greatest potential. So today I'm excited to announce AIBox. AIBox is a no-code AI app building platform paired with the App Store for AI that lets you monetize your AI tools. The platform lets you build apps by linking together AI models like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and 11 Labs. Eventually will integrate with software like Gmail, Trello, and Salesforce, so you can use AI to automate every function in your organization. To get notified when we launch and be one of the first to build on the platform, you can join the waitlist at aibox.ai. The link is in the show notes. We are currently raising a seed round of funding. If you're an investor that is focused on disruptive tech, I'd love to tell you more about the platform. You can reach out to me at jaden@aibox.ai. I'll leave that email in the show notes. You've been listening to the ChatGPT podcast. Make sure to rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts and have a fantastic week.